broadcast network, AfterBuzz TV. Over 20 million weekly downloads in over 150 countries, and your #1 source for after-show entertainment. AfterBuzz TV, the destination for TV superfans. Producing aftershows for over 300 of your favorite TV shows, interviewing celebrities and showrunners, and bringing you behind-the-scenes exclusives. All thanks to E! Entertainment's Maria Menounos, producer Kevin Undergaro, and internet leader Akamai. Now, let the buzz begin!
This is a temple! My temple!
Lucha Underground. And let's get it. There we go, baby. Welcome to episode 5 of the Lucha Underground After Show right here on AfterBuzz TV. Now we've got, let's just keep it going. Let's keep Dario Cueto going. It's one of the best parts of the show. We got a little bit of a sparse panel tonight. Jared Gilkerson, he's out this week. He'll be back. Same bat time, same bat channel next week. We got my man, Jimbo Franck, in the booth. Jimbo, say what's up. Let me see that beautiful face.
What's up?
Where are you at? Let me see that face.
I'm working on it.
Well, guys, it is a very, very special night. We're only 5 episodes in. We've had some amazing guests. We've had Willie Mack. We've had Joey Ryan. But wait a minute. Hang on. Something's happening. Whoa. Oh. Are we on the white shot? We on the white shot, guys? Someone would have some sort of like spooky sound effect or something. Guys, you know her as Katrina. She is the new proprietor of Lucha Underground in this brand new season, season 2. The lovely and talented Karlee Leilani Perez.
Thank you guys for having me.
Thank you so much for coming on. We are just, this entire season, we've been having a blast covering the show, covering all of the wacky shenanigans in the ring, out of the ring. We were talking about it off air a little bit. You know what? Let's not waste any more time. Guys, you can find me online on Twitter, on Instagram, at TyMatthewsPMA. Jimbo, where can they find you?
You can find me on Twitter at the Jimbo Slice. We're getting this computer set up.
There we go.
Wrong way.
We got this.
We'll make this happen. Trust me.
Now, Karlee, let's start with the beginning. How did your involvement with Lucha Underground first come about? And I want to know about your first reactions to the Katrina character when you were approached with that.
My involvement with Lucha Underground first came through Krista Joseph.
Mm-hmm.
I actually was sitting at dinner when I got a phone call from him asking me what's been up, and all of a sudden trying to explain this crazy weird show that nobody really knows about or knows what's really going on. And I'm like, and you know, as soon as they told me they were in business with Robert Rodriguez, I definitely jumped on board. I'm a huge fan of his, and you know, it was a dream come true to be able to work under somebody like that and have such a creative team of people, you know, not just with him, just our whole team, you know, our whole all the writers, the producers, everybody's been great. And they first sat me down and gave me literally a paragraph, you know, like, hey, this is Katrina, this is what we're thinking, you know, sexy, kind of, you know, scary, you know, a little, you know, no, mysterious, you know. And that was it. It was just like a paragraph. And I was like, they're like, here, run with it. Let's see what you can do. And, you know, I would just sit and write and think of anything that I could make different and making her just even more to the edge, you know. I like pushing everything to the edge.
Sure.
And I think that's what makes it just more entertaining. And especially with characters, you know, when I watch film, I'm a movie fanatic, and TV series are like the new thing now too, but the characters that are just a little edgier are the ones that keep my attention. So I really wanted to bring that to the table, and I've been having a lot of fun with that. So
Definitely. And it's,
what are some of your favorite shows that you like to watch right now?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
What do we got?
Let's see. I'm trying to think of one I just like, you know, like when you binge watch everything, you know, like when you get stuck on one thing.
Of course. All the time.
Black Sails. I was watching Gotham, and I actually read for the Gotham role, the girl, you know who I'm talking about.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah,
interesting.
yeah.
Okay.
I read for her role. I was like, oh, but she does a great job.
Absolutely.
I'm a big fan of Empire. I love me some Cookie. I like to think I'm the Cookie of Lucha Underground.
There you go. There you go.
Katrina. See, they both start with
Gotta
C's,
get a big
you know? We're good.
Exactly.
Cookie Katrina.
Gotta get a big old fur coat.
I know. I could. Hey!
You know?
Mundo might get a little match.
That's right. There you go.
But that is a good idea. Maybe get a feathered one or something.
Right?
I could just go on. Like, I could sit and watch movies, and I actually go to the movies by myself a lot.
And that's the best. Absolutely.
Is that weird?
No, not at
weird,
all.
guys?
I got when I was studying abroad, and when I like was just kind of by myself trying to get around, like I would just go to the movies by myself. And I realized like this is the best.
I do it a lot.
You know?
You know,
Absolutely.
even when I was in WWE, when I was on the road, I would take myself out on dates. I would go find the best restaurant.
There you
'cause
go.
I'm a foodie too.
Okay.
So I would try to figure out what was the best restaurant in the town or country or whatever was local, and I would literally take myself out to dinner and a movie.
That's the best.
And I remember one time I bought my movie ticket, and the guy at the counter was just like, "Is it just you? Are you alone?" And I was like, "Yeah, weirdo. Like, is that okay?" And he's like, "Oh no, I just don't understand why you're alone." And I was like, "Well, because I can't get a date." And he actually came in and brought me popcorn and like tried to sit next to me while I watched the movie. Yeah, but I love. That's where I get a lot of my inspiration from with Katrina, and I just kind of pick from different actors and actresses, you know.
Yeah.
And I'm a huge like like Christian Bale and Benicio. And,
Absolutely.
Like, like just the way they move and their mannerisms and their facials and
Right.
yeah.
And I'm glad you brought that up, because I was going to ask if there were any movie characters, TV characters, or specific actors or actresses that you kind of either try and channel or try and study when you're in Katrina mode, as it were.
Yeah, I can like everything I've like just the ones I just named off, like Benicio del Toro is he's incredible.
Definitely.
I can just like watch these movies and the shows, and I think people who are passionate about this probably have the same way of doing it, but I can just remember every little detail from their facials to their mannerisms and the way they move their hands and stuff. And there isn't ones I specifically watch. I think just after years of doing it, I can kind of just channel into certain, depending what I'm talking about,
Right.
in the middle of the scene, what I'm doing. Am I calm? Am I not? But I can just like channel into it.
Yeah, definitely.
But those are ones I look at. There aren't too many. There are a few female. Cookie might be the most. There aren't too many female characters that have a little to
Right.
them right
Absolutely,
now.
yeah.
So there isn't really too much of that to. I'm trying to think of like the last one that had like a really
Right.
in a film and television. What do you like?
Man, what do I think of? Jimmo, what do you think?
Like,
What
has
was
there...
the girl in Mad Max? The chicken Mad Max.
I
She was
could
badass.
Oh
She
yeah,
was a
Charlize
badass chick.
Theron.
Charlize Theron
man.
as Furiosa?
Yeah, she
There
did a
we
good
go.
job. She can play anything.
I could see a little
though.
Furiosa in there, sure.
Yeah, I'd shave my head.
Absolutely. Get that bionic arm going. Absolutely.
Yeah. Katrina with
We
the
were just
bionic
talking about
arm.
a hairdo for season 3. There you go.
Exactly. Just football. We got the bangs this season.
You
We're going
imagine?
football next season.
I walk in with a shaved head. Don't give me ideas. now,
Right? It
man.
would be nothing if
Don't
not
give me
unexpected.
ideas.
Now let's get into episode 5, The Machine. As we go along, we got some very, very good Katrina stuff, but even the stuff where we didn't see it, we're going to veer it back. We're going to segue it. We're going to do our best to take that segue. Let's start right at the beginning. We see Pentagon Jr. and his Dark Master Vampiro. They're kind of pontificating in their lair, as they are wont to do. We kind of get a little bit of backstory. We get the story that Ian Hodgkinson kind of keeps Vampiro locked away in the dark corners of his mind, and it was really Vampiro kind of forcing himself out of Ian Hodgkinson's mind. And he's telling Pentagon Jr., who is now his protege, he's telling him that he has to do whatever it takes. Basically, he can't let anyone stand in his way, including her, which he points to that portrait that we talked a little bit about last week, Jimbo.
Yes.
We talked about that portrait.
Dorian Gray portrait.
I love
that we were like,
that.
I like that, right?
Right. Can you tell us now? That raised a lot of questions.
I know.
Obviously, being a very kind of a very old-fashioned sort of portrait. Can you tell us a little bit about that element of the character? If we're going to learn any more about that,
You will. You'll learn more about it. They're throwing things out there to keep everybody on their toes.
Sure.
But that definitely raises the question of how old am I,
Right.
and where did I come from, and what really can I do, or really what century am I in? Like, it raises a lot, which is what it just can keep the story going,
Exactly. And I love the parallels being drawn between Katrina and Pentagon Jr., two of the most powerful characters on the show, for very, very different reasons. I mean, as we'll see later on in the episode, Katrina can use her sort of powers and her sort of abilities to, circumnavigate around Pentagon Jr., who he could easily, break anyone else. But he literally can't keep a hold on her.
Right.
I thought it was like Kubrick, like nothing on screen is not there for a purpose. Like
Exactly.
everything we see, we really got to pay attention to. Because
Sure.
like little things like that, it's definitely going to come up. Like I said, like it makes you want to go back and see, like, did Ricky drop hints of being a cop before? in the other
Right.
seasons? Like,
Exactly.
It makes you really wonder.
It is Kubrickian. I like that term. I like that a lot. With the show is a lot of things. We've called it a lot of things. Kubrickian, that's a new one. Thank you for that, Jimbo. I like it.
Anytime.
The film nerd in me is very excited. Now let's get into our opening contest. The Dragon Slayer, the newly dubbed Dragon Slayer, Jack Evans, taking on the Darewolf PJ Black. And this has got to be, honestly, one of my favorite matches of the show thus far altogether. I mean, these two guys are so dynamic, so kind of fluid. They're so agile, and they're such high flyers that they're working on a completely different level. What do you think of this match, Jimbo?
I thought it was excellent. I love heel Jack Evans.
Absolutely.
I've seen a lot of heel Jack Evans lately in PWG.
Right.
And it's just like a license to print money.
And
He is so great on the mic, and it's really cool because he's like the white dude who went to Mexico and could do all the flips better than them.
Right.
That's now like, yeah, I'm going to talk shit.
And he's just claiming that he invented Lucha Libre at this point. And we've talked about over the last few weeks how it seems like Jack Evans is kind of one of the only true heels in Lucha Underground right now. Because even the villains of the show are so good at their characters and they're so talented that I think people really want to cheer them. Yeah. But Jack Evans will get under their skin in such a different way that it's just, it's amazing. And calling himself the Dragon Slayer after getting ostensibly a lucky win over Drago is incredible. But speaking of Drago, we see him make an appearance during this match. We see him come out in a ridiculous-looking helmet and mask thing, even more ridiculous than his usual mask. We see him swinging around nunchucks. We really think that he's going to cause Jack Evans a distraction loss, but we even get a reversal of that, a subversion of that trope. We see PJ Black with the false finish hitting the black diamond, and then accidentally getting a face full of mist. We see that bridging backslide that we saw Jack Evans beat Drago with, and we see Jack Evans' win streak continue. Now, one thing that I was very curious about this, we see these two styles, we see lots of different styles, even just in this episode alone. What I wanted to ask you, you've mixed it up in the ring before. Do you miss that at all?
Yeah, yeah, I do. I'm able to channel my aggression in other ways still. Sure. Which is good. It's still released, but that's like therapy, like wrestling really in a lot of ways is, obviously you have to be extremely passionate and love what you do because it is a lifestyle, but I do miss it because to me it was like, where else can I scream at the top of my lungs and hit somebody as hard as I want to, and everybody's okay with it, Sure. It's like, and she's not really crazy, like it's like, right, because I would go in my Maxine days. I remember just, was that loud? Like, jeez,
right.
Because I was just screaming. I don't even know why at half the time. I was just like, I had so much pent up energy. But I do miss it when I get in and I start messing around, I'm like, oh, it comes right back to me again.
Yeah. And what are some of the pros? What are some of the things that you enjoy about taking on this more sort of outside of the ring kind of role?
I love it. You know, I do believe in the wrestling industry. There's so many different type of entertainers, but I think this type of entertainer has been slacking. Character entertainers have been slacking in the industry, and although it is amazing, the story and what you can do inside the ring, but it is just as important what you can do outside the ring.
Right, definitely.
And I do believe that a lot of companies don't put enough on really getting behind characters, and being able to tell a story in that way. And that's what, film and television and TV series and all these DC, Marvels, Gotham, all these type of cool characters are out, and they work and people get behind them. So in this industry, why can't you have strong characters like that? And I'm happy to be able to bring that to the table. I enjoyed that, and I got all that passion from Dusty Rhodes, and I'm happy that I was able to learn from him about this. And I knew that this was what my passion was in the business from the beginning. It's just taken a few years to really V my way through and get a solid one put in front of me like this.
Right. And it's such an interesting character because it's got hybrids of all of these different tropes that we've seen in wrestling, but we haven't seen them all in one person and one character before. It's a female competitor, but it's a mysterious competitor, and it's an authority figure, but it's a manager, and it's all of these different.
That's true. Yeah, I didn't really think about it that way.
Archetypes rolled into
hybrid
one.
Of Cookie mixed with Katrina hybrid.
There you go. And it's so interesting seeing an authority figure take this kind of route. She isn't necessarily power hungry just for the sake of having power.
Right.
I feel like she likes having power over people's souls.
Yeah,
instead,
it's a little deeper. She goes a little deeper than that. There's definitely not anything just on the surface with her. She's definitely reaching. She's reaching to deep in there just to rip it all
some
out.
dark corners for
there's
sure.
some dark stuff going on.
What are you thinking there, Jimbo?
Since you brought up Max and Dusty Rhodes, I watched a ton of your stuff with Johnny Curtis today before I came in. And my favorite is you guys chloroforming Matt Striker.
I knew. How did I know you were gonna say that?
Oh man. So Johnny Curtis kind of got the raw deal. And I was thinking, what kind of character do you think he would play if he was in Lucha Underground, and what you would see him doing there? Because obviously, you're where you're at now, and you look at EC3 and TNA, so it makes me wonder, what could Johnny Curtis be?
He can do anything.
It's so
Johnny
interesting.
Curtis can do anything. He could do. I could see him playing some cool, really cool. A suave type of monotone suave badass guy.
Exactly, yeah.
I really could see him doing that, walking around with all black with a cane or something, just with a slick tail, just suave,
Right.
Not really knowing what he's up to, just a creeper, a creeper in the more, not the Johnny Curtis creeper,
Sure.
He was a creeper too. Yeah, weird, super weird. He was. It was so hard not to laugh during my stuff with him. I'm like,
right. Now speaking of over the top characters, we see Famous B.
Oh, geez.
Coming up next. We saw him just a little bit in season 1. We saw him get his arm snapped by Pentagon Jr. But he's back, and he's here to make you famous. Not in the way that you're thinking, not in the big evil way. But he's got a hotline. He's got 423 get fame. He's going to turn you from a jobber into a robber, and he is going to steal that spotlight. What do you think of this, Jimbo? What do you think of Famous B?
I loved it. It reminded me of Better Call Saul.
That's exactly what I was thinking.
I was like, oh, this is great. And like me and you both know Brian. Brian's a great dude.
Sure.
And, like he's always had that like it factor that you saw of like, this guy's got so much potential. Like
Definitely.
I remember like filming early shows with him at Santino's, and he'd come out and ask who wants his autograph, and I was like, we got to figure out a way to put something on my camera lens that you could sign my camera lens without screwing up my camera. That would just be awesome.
Exactly. We love famous Brian. One of the things like this are one of the reasons that we love Lucha Underground. It's these over the top characters, and this is something that I ask everyone that comes in here, everyone that we've had on the show. What do you think it was that drew people to Lucha Underground in such a big way? We were talking about it off mic that it was kind of unexpected how it blew up. Why do you think that is?
Well, number one, it's never been done. So, you know, you give people something different. Most of the time, it's a chance you take with anything new, because everybody's likes to stay in their comfort zones, you know. But I do think, and at this day and time in this industry, people are begging for something different, something to get them off their chair, something that they don't know what's going to happen next. That's the biggest thing. Like you can't watch the show and go and figure out really what's going to happen next, you know, like you can with other products. So and then just the style, like the whole thing, you know, it's shot as a TV show. It's shot like a movie, you know, our vignettes and the writing and everything about it is so different, and it's never been done before. So we were blessed and lucky to have, you know, people are just jumping on the bandwagon left and right, and it's growing so massively, so quickly. I can't believe we're going into season 3 right now.
Is that crazy?
Yeah,
we were talking about that. We were talking about that the very first episode that we covered on AfterBuzz, that there was such a huge gap between seasons 1 and 2.
Huge.
And
like
then,
you're just like ugh.
Right, and then next thing you know, you're like,
Months.
okay, season 3 is confirmed. It's about to get ready to start taping.
Confirmed after episode 1.
Right.
You know, like of season 2. So it's just we're going on to season 3, and it's just growing. It's just, who knows where in a year from now what this is gonna look like. So
Sure.
I can say it's probably gonna look totally different than what it's looked from now, in a better way, you know, and I can't wait to watch it grow even more. But I think that's what happened, and we got them at the right time, and it was a good niche style show that also brings in wrestling the way people want it, and it's just something different, you know?
Definitely. And it's another one of the great things about this is that, like I said, we see so many different styles of matches just in this one episode alone, which speaks to our next match. We've got the Gift of the Gods champion King Cuerno taking on Killshot, two of my absolute favorite competitors in Lucha Underground. Of course, it's a non-title match. And it's kind of a battle of the marksmen, sort of. It's almost Hunter versus Hunter in a way, you know. And there are so many amazing spots in this. There's so many, the strikes especially. Jimbo, what did you think of the striking game on display in this match?
In the
Cuerno versus Killshot.
Oh man, I wrote in my notes like that it was like gunshots. Even Vampiro was like, oh, these were like gunshots.
Right,
but
which is fitting.
I love when Killshot did like a handspring over the top rope.
Exactly, yeah.
I think he needs to make that a move.
That
like a fake out move. Like,
interesting, okay.
He fakes a dive, the guy moves, but he does like the handspring to a clothesline or something.
Sure.
Like that needs to be a fake out move.
Or maybe
it was so graceful and beautiful. I was like, oh my god.
Absolutely. Maybe that handspring into a Dragon Rana outside in.
Oh
or
yeah,
inside
not?
out rather.
You know, why not? Dragon Rana all the time.
It's a good one. We see so much good stuff. We see Killshot missing the spiral tap off the top. We see King Cuerno connecting with the thrill of the hunt. And that was one thing that I loved about this, is that when King Cuerno hit Phoenix with the thrill of the hunt, it wasn't enough, because Phoenix, literally his whole thing is that you can't put him down. He had to bust out this entirely new finish, you know, that really...
That's called the thrill of the kill.
The thrill of the kill. We found that out, yeah. And I feel like that's almost kind of reserved for guys on the level of like Phoenix and Mil Muertes, basically. You know, but everyone else, I like that he can still put people away with the thrill of the hunt, you know? It's getting that... it's establishing that he can finish a match in, you know, various ways.
I also like that when they had that little mess up on the ring apron when he was going for the neck breaker, Vampiro acknowledging like these things happen and like this is a competition and this is why you don't try this at home. But like none of the fans were like you effed up.
Well, it's interesting.
Like, shitting on it. Like
it's interesting that you mentioned that. Because I didn't see that as a botch, really. I didn't see that as a. I thought that from what I saw was he grabbed Cuerno's wrist, pulled it backwards, and then pulled him into that bump against the apron.
I think he was going for a neck breaker.
Was he going for a neck breaker, do you think?
Get high enough, so he just grabbed his arm.
Okay.
But either way, like, you could tell that it wasn't done how it was supposed to be done, but no one was like, you effed up, you effed up.
Exactly,
or like,
yeah.
Botchamania.
It's not,
like,
it's
there
not
was
the
none
kind
of
of.
those.
Yeah, it's not the kind of environment, you know, in the temple. Now, that was just one of many insane bumps that we saw in this match. We saw a lot of, you know, we talked about how you're not necessarily mixing it up in the ring, but that does not preclude you from taking some gnarly bumps. Tell us about some of the bumps that you took in season 1, especially that spear. You got speared, or that was actually this season.
Episode 1.
That was episode 1. You got speared by Mil Muertes.
Yeah, I did.
What were some of the what are some of the kind of gnarliest bumps that you've taken over the course of the show?
A fucking kick from Mundo. That was
Right.
And took a big bump on the apron and rolled off on the floor, and Mil carried me back. I got like knocked out.
between the hair and the heels and everything, that's gotta be challenging just to take a bump just in an outfit like that.
Yeah, that's talent in itself.
Right.
That was Mundo there. I'm trying to think of season 1. What did I mean, I know quite a few coming up here in season 2.
All right.
So, but yeah, that Mil bump was.
That spear was absolutely incredible.
I think I took a clothesline from Mil.
Okay, yeah.
Coffin match.
Oh, right. Grave consequences. One of the greatest moments of season 1.
I took a clothesline for the at the ends there before we shut the coffin.
Right.
Yeah.
So he's still not afraid.
I ripped my pants, by the way, on that bump, right down the crack of it.
On the clothesline.
On the clothesline, ripped my pants, and I was like, "Oh my god! I hope nobody's just like."
Right.
I didn't know until the back. Guys. I had blood all over me, ripped down the crack of my pants, and I'm like, what just happened to me? You know?
Right.
Like, this is a rough night.
No, that's, you know, we're talking about the most memorable bumps. That reminds me of, we opened up the forum to Twitter for some questions that people had for Katrina. One of the most interesting questions we got, obviously one of the most kind of significant traits of Katrina that we've seen so far is the lick of death. We've seen that quite a bit over the course of the show. We had Paradox Kid asked, what was the most memorable lick of death that you performed over the course of the show? And let's explore a little bit about kind of the symbolism of that, where that came from. Was that in that original breakdown that they gave you?
No, it was not.
Okay.
I was day 1 was sitting there going, you know, thinking about my character, reading the description and you know what they gave me, and you know we really wanted her to be a seductress. And to be the dam, like Robert Rodriguez likes his women, you know, and that, right, like that, you know, being able to pull everybody in.
There is very much a kind of Satanico from Dusk Till Dawn kind of vibe going on.
Yeah, but everybody does the kissing thing, you know. And I looked at Krista Joseph and I go, I don't know what I was thinking at that moment, but I go, well, what if I just lick my victims? And he's like, well, what do you mean? I was like, yeah, like I just lick them. You can call it the lick of death. I can just lick them, like, you know, they die or they don't, or they're dying or they're gonna die or whatever. And he's like, I don't know. Let's try it tonight on you know, we had the dark match. We tried it on the dark match first in season 1, and they're like, that was awesome. It was really nasty, but it was awesome. If you want to, like, let's, and then, you know, the lick of death was born, and all of a sudden, I'm looking at everybody.
It reminds me a lot of Michelle Pfeiffer in Batman Returns.
Okay.
There you
Like
go.
the
All right.
Catwoman, like when she licks up his mask and up his nose. And
Yeah,
then,
the
Oh,
Catwoman.
interesting.
the stone, was that your idea also?
Yes, I just felt like if a man is, Mill is so powerful and he's so big, and our characters, I feel like are very comic Marvel-esque characters.
Definitely.
So you have to, like, the lick of death is like that, or like a poison ivy, or something that's mine, that has meaning to it. And meaning for me of obviously owning you and your soul. But Mill, I was sitting there with him and I'm like, you gotta have something, like like we can't just walk out with nothing.
Right.
Like,
It's gotta be a source to the power, sure.
So, what in my mind I was like, well, what's the easiest thing we could go to that would make sense? You were buried alive.
Right.
You come out with the stone. It's like your kryptonite.
A piece of that rubble, yeah, exactly.
And that's pitched that to the writers, and they loved it. And all of a sudden, now the stone's born too. So
Right.
we got the lick of death and the stone from that.
That's so interesting, and that is kind of one of the most fascinating aspects of the Mil Muertes character. That this basically where he was kind of reborn is the
Right.
source of his power.
Yeah.
Have we explored the relationship between Katrina and Mil and how they kind of came together before?
They did. If you see, like, in the package that came out, where the first one, when I'm announcing that I'm now boss of Lucha of the Temple,
sure.
Lucha Underground, and I'm not scared of anything. I'm not worried about Phoenix breaking Mill's arm, because I've seen him through everything. I've
Right.
seen him, as champion. I've seen him through the grave, come back alive, and then I brought him back. So it kind of goes and shows you the age too, probably, of my character or what's going on, because I brought him back to life.
Right.
So I don't ever leave his side.
Sure.
But we have such a unique dynamic together, our chemistry, and you can't ever, like, it's not a normal relationship,
Right.
There's nothing normal about us. I'm licking other dudes in front of him. I'm messing, and he's okay with it.
Never
there's
thought about
just
it in that context.
Yeah, like, there's really nothing normal about our relationship, which is what makes it, I think, so different. It's,
Yeah.
if you think about any other, like, couples that came out of that industry, that's like, this is really not a normal one.
Sure.
Yeah.
Now let's continue on with the show. We get a gauntlet match.
Before we jump over,
Sure.
Killshot went for a lion salt and took a kick to the face.
Just in
Blew my mind.
mid flip, absolutely.
Could
That
not
was
believe that.
one
I
of
was
the
like,
things I rewound a couple
"Oh my
times.
God."
Cuerno just catches him with a kick as he's upside down, mid lion salt, definitely. Now moving on, we get Tejano. And I love this story because we're getting pieces of the story week by week, and we get these almost kind of mini blow-offs like this gauntlet match with no warning. There wasn't really any kind of talk about it last week, but we've got Tejano taking on Chavo Guerrero and the crew, or what's left of the crew now, R.I.P. Bale. We've got Tejano taking on Mr. Cisco, Cortez Castro, and Chavo Guerrero. And this is a straight up old school brawl. That's what I loved about this, is that, Evans versus PJ Black, we get a lot of the high flying. Cuerno versus Killshot, we get a lot of the strikes. This is just straight up old school, We see Cisco taken out immediately with a super kick right off the bat. Gotta love those quick eliminations.
I didn't like that.
No, did you not like that?
I thought because his arm was all bandaged up, he should have, like, hit him in the arm and, like, tapped him out or something.
I see.
Like, you knew it was going to be a quick, like, take this guy out.
Sure.
So I thought it would have not made him look as much of a chump.
Right.
If it would have been like, oh, look, his arm is wrapped and bandaged. Obviously, he's hurt there. Knock him into the ring post and pin him or something. Don't super kick him when we've seen 30 super kicks in all the other
That's
matches
true.
and no one's been beat by one.
That is a very, very good point. It is hard to use a super kick as a finisher these days. But we see that elimination right off the bat. We see a lot of back and forth between Cortez Castro and Tejano. And like I said, Reyes is another guy that's been doing this for 16 years, part of the Havana Pitbulls, part of the Los Cubanitos,
I loved Matt Stryker's reference to the Misfits in Action.
Lieutenant
in
Loco?
Yeah, calling Chavo Lieutenant Loco. That was hilarious.
Absolutely. We see Tejano put Cortez Castro away with a pop-up sit-out powerbomb, and then finally we get the big blow-off between Chavo Guerrero and Tejano. I guess not the big blow-off. That'll come later on. But we see a lot of really good stuff. We see that... I can't remember who he did it on, but we saw that second rope Rough Rider from Tejano that was just absolutely... phenomenal.
He hit it on Cortez.
That's what it was. Yeah. Eventually, we get some shenanigans. We get Cortez Castro using the bull rope to hold down Tejano's feet, while Chavo gets the 1-2-3. And we saw a few weeks ago that whole storyline between Cortez, Joey Ryan. How that's kind of gonna play into all this, and I'm curious how that plays into Chavo Guerrero, how it plays into Dario Cueto, how, if anything, it plays into Katrina and Mil Muertes. Everything is cyclical, and everything kind of comes full circle,
I might be grasping at straws here.
Okay.
But,
Grasp
how
away.
they use the rope to hold him down and get the pin.
Uh-huh.
And I was wondering, because they referenced, Chavo using that rope to beat him in Season 1.
Sure.
What if, Chavo beat him with that rope and then took it and used it as a murder weapon or something, so that Cortez was trying to get it back for evidence to test the rope or something? I don't know, because I was like, well, why would they use that in the winning?
I was
it. Just like, well, with this show, it could happen.
You really never know. We've seen time travel at this point, so you really never know. Now, one thing
You're
that
sitting next to someone who can teleport.
Exactly. We saw plenty of that. We've got so much to get to in this episode. How are we doing on time?
Hey, we got time, dude. Roan, brother.
Beautiful. That's what I like to hear. Now, we talked about kind of the old school nature of this match. I wanted to know what, if any, kind of the more old school influences sort of had an impact on your career.
Wow.
You talked about Dusty Rhodes.
Yeah, that was number one by far for me.
Did you grow up watching wrestling?
I started watching more when because my first boyfriend watched wrestling.
Okay.
Or my first little corner makeout session guy.
First bay.
Carl. His
Sure.
name was Carl.
Carl.
First Carl.
I don't know why I like that.
First,
Carl,
yeah,
good
Carl.
to see you.
And,
okay, go on.
He watched, and I remember sitting with him, Stone Cold, and of course, The Rock, who I do love, and I think,
and who we've seen as a fan of the show.
He is a fan of the show,
Yep.
rocking our Lucha shirt. Mm-hmm. Hey, Dwayne.
He's definitely watching, guys.
He's for sure watching. So I watched in middle school, and I was born in Tampa.
Okay.
A lot of the old timers came and are from Tampa.
Sure.
You want to know, actually, a funny story, and I almost felt like it was meant to be or cross paths. My very first dog, his name was Ty. Ty was a Shar-Pei.
Okay.
And
great name off the bat.
We had to get rid of Ty, and my family gave Ty to the Rhodes family.
Really?
And when I got signed by WWE and went into FCW, and Dusty was there, years later, not only did he become, my biggest mentor, but I have a picture of him hanging in my car. I literally talk to Dusty every day. So, still. But
I love that. Yeah.
He got my very first dog, and that became their family dog. And Cody grew up with that dog, and Ty. So it was such a small...
That's so weird,
small, weird universe, I don't know if I've ever even told anybody that story. I remember Dusty sitting down with him in his office going, hey, you got my dog, this is so weird, right? Trying to make him, smooge up to him, but he eventually just fell in love with me anyways. But he ended up with my very first dog.
Really?
So, yeah.
That's fascinating.
Yeah, it is.
How did you guys, did your family know that those were the famous Rhodes?
Yeah, they did, but it's just they were always connected. My father was born and grew up in Ybor City, and they were close with the in-laws, Dusty's in-laws, and it was just a circle. It was a small Steve Kern,
Sure.
you know. My father went to school with his wife Terry. It was just a small circle, but he ended up with my dog. You know.
I love that. What a good
Yeah.
story.
While you're talking about Dusty, you have a new DVD that just came out called Hitting High Spots with Rob Naylor. I've seen the preview.
Okay.
And you reference Dusty talking about how you were like the number one to look out for.
Yeah.
And how you were talking to him about doing Lucha Underground, and he was saying you need to get out of wrestling and be in films and be on TV.
Yep.
Has being at Lucha Underground opened those doors and got you more acting gigs outside of wrestling?
A lot. I do believe that you know, I'm a firm believer in everything happens for a reason, and you know, you attract a lot of your paths, you know, that you want. You hit some bumps and you need to get back on track, and I've always kept my mind on that, and Dusty kept my mind on that even when I was in FCW, you know, and he you know, I was so flattered and humbled, you know, all the way to the week before he passed. You know, he put out that tweet, you know, giving one of the divas a compliment, and then ... Max #1. And, you know, still always and they used to tell me that on promo days every week he'd go, you guys need to learn how to cut a promo like Maxine if you want, you know, and he'd always put me over every single week, and he always had my back, and he gave me that passion, and he told me that, you know, there was, you know, anybody he's ever worked with, that if anyone was going to do it, you could do it, and you need to really concentrate on your acting and on character development. And he told me the last time I saw him in person was, I want you out, and I want you doing this. I want you in film and television.
Right.
And he was so proud though of Lucha, and he watched every episode, you know, in season 1, and he used to message me saying, you know, what was good, what was not good, what I can do better. And he was a big supporter, but he taught me everything out of that. And I do believe that it has opened up, I mean, it's not that I believe it has. It has opened up a lot of doors, and I think that was the path I needed to go on. I wasn't going to have that in WWE. This is now where I needed to be at this point in time in my life. And yeah, I'm getting weekly calls now. I couldn't be in a better position for some amazing shows and films. Like 2 years ago, I wouldn't even imagine the stuff I'm getting called for. Like I said, I read for Gotham.
Yeah.
I've read for Orange Is the New Black 3 times.
Wow, okay.
I just read for just this past week. What's the Lucy's High, the Hulu series?
Oh yeah, Lucy's High. Yeah.
Yeah, I just read for them just this past week. Quite a few feature films over the past 2 weeks.
Okay. So you're getting the best of both worlds. I mean, you're obviously you're on a wrestling show, or as we talked about off mic, as we love to say every week, a show about a wrestling show.
The show about, yes, a TV series that has wrestling in it. But because of the show and Katrina, it's such a niche and unique kind of character that it gives me a lot of practice, and it keeps me on point, and it helps show those attributes, and you know that I bring to the table for film and television. But it's so fun. It's my favorite thing to do, is auditioning for shows like this, you know.
Definitely.
I have so much fun doing it.
That's so good. I love it. Let's get into one of my absolute favorite segments of the show. We got quite a bit of backstory for Dario Cueto. We go back to this kind of quote unquote temple that he and Black Lotus have set up to basically, you know, feed his brother Matanza, or let him practice, as it were. They're still 375 miles from the temple, which we plotted it out. Could be somewhere Arizona, Utah, who knows? But, you know, we get this story. we get this story about Dario and Matanza's mother being such a wicked woman, being an abusive woman. And one day Dario finally stood up to her and said, "No mas." And she did not take kindly to that. Ended up chasing him around with a hot iron until his brother Matanza took that Red Bull statue that we've seen since the episode 1, season 1, episode 1. We've seen that statue. Matanza took that statue and bashed their mother's head in. Beat her to death with
freaky.
it. It's such an incredible, like, such a graphic, such a dark story, you know. And you know, Black Lotus, she says, "I'm sorry to hear that," but he says, "No, it's a happy memory," because that's where he realized that he loves violence, you know. And I always saw that bull. I always thought it was a reference to the Charging Bull statue on Wall Street. I thought it was a reference to capitalism, his love of money. But it's got an even more personal connection that it was used to murder his own mother. How ridiculous is that?
It goes back to the Kubrickian thing we were saying, like
Sure.
everything on screen is there for a reason.
Right, exactly. And we did see someone get beaten to death with a statue in A Clockwork Orange even. See, it all comes full circle, guys. Even though that was a giant phallus, not a bull, but, you know, potato, whatever. Now, you know, obviously this season we see Katrina kind of taking over for Dario Cueto as the new proprietor of the temple. How do you think that kind of changes the dynamic of her character?
She had to come back even stronger than before. Nothing.
Just like Mill, yeah.
Nothing. Just like Mill, and that to me that meant like she's not gonna look the same. She's not gonna walk the same. Nothing's gonna be the same. You're gonna have the tendencies of Katrina from season 1. You're gonna be able to tell it's Katrina, but you're gonna see her take it up a notch.
Definitely. And she's going to have some fierce bangs. Let's not forget that.
Yeah, you can't look, you know, like, you got to bring in the Kill Bill, you know, style.
There you go.
Yeah, you know, you got to. So she really had to step it up because to be in that position and to hold that position and make it 150% believable, you have to own it.
Right.
And to own it, you know, you got to lay it all out and nothing can be like it was before, you know?
Sure.
And I think that's even more so going in further, you know, into season 3.
Right.
Wherever Katrina leads into season 3, it's going to be different than season 2.
Absolutely.
I think out of all the characters, she's going to come back different every time.
Right.
And I think that's a good thing. That's what keeps it different and evolving, you know?
And speaking of coming back bigger and better and stronger, we see this interaction between her and Pentagon Jr. in this episode. Pentagon Jr., after Puma damn near broke his arm with his own move last week, you know, he's demanding retribution. He wants to teach Puma a lesson in the ring, so he's demanding that Katrina give him a match. But Katrina, she holds all the cards. She holds all the power, you know, and like we said, not in so much like a money-hungry way or trying to manipulate people's careers. She's manipulating people's lives, you know, people's souls at this point. And so you know, so she says, you know, after what you did to Mill, what makes you think I'm going to give you what you want? And we see this incredible fight scene happen between you and Pentagon. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about how you guys shot that, how you planned it, working with Pentagon, whatever you want to get into.
It was really cool. It was great. It was great to I feel like naturally I'm I always was athletic, and I have a little bit. I was a tomboy. I was a huge tomboy growing up. So I'm just a little rough around the edges.
Okay.
So I love shooting stuff like that, you know. And
Right.
yeah, who better with than Pentagon?
Yeah.
It was shot really cool. Obviously, you know, we would go through the full fight scene, and then we would go through step by step, and I had to, you know, of course. Guys, I had to.
You're teleporting, of course.
I had to teleport to my different, you know, spots on teasing him and, you know, manipulating him and pissing him off. To walk away and tell him, you know, that was a mistake, laying your hands on me. But it was really fun to shoot. And I don't know if anybody noticed, but I was proud that I did that flip in stilettos, guys.
That was pretty impressive, absolutely.
I was like, you want me to do what?
Right. Who's going to pay for these broken ankles, guys?
Like, this is, you know, because I think people forget, like, you know, it's not like a string was holding, you know, is holding us when we're doing that stuff. And I'm in, like, thigh-high boots, stilettos,
Right.
like, or whatever I was wearing. I don't remember what ones, but I know there were stilettos.
Right.
So I was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to break my ankle. But we had a lot of fun shooting that scene and doing the fight scene. I was so excited. Actually, this is the first time I saw it, by the way.
Oh, okay, yeah, sure.
Yeah, I saw it here with you guys for the first time, so it looks good.
And absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
And it's is this kind of the most physically involved that we've seen Katrina get in terms of just straight up fighting someone?
So far, yeah.
So far, okay. Keep an eye out season 2, of course.
I loved when he has you and he looks like he's about to break your arm and you bit your lip. Just like, oh, that's so cute.
Right.
Right before you teleport out to be like, yeah, you don't get your match, and by the way, you should never put your hands on me.
That I love.
Just like little subtle things like that. Like, you were only on TV in this episode for maybe like 4 minutes total
Right.
airtime, and every time you stepped on the screen, you just like captivated my attention.
Oh.
I was
Exactly,
just like,
yeah.
What is going on? Why is she here? What is she doing? Where is this going?
And I love that final moment, because it's not about Katrina just trying to get the final word. It's like, no, you effed up in a pretty major way, so like that's gonna come to a head at some point.
What you gotta keep your eyes
Exactly,
out for,
exactly. Let's get into our main event, grudge match time. Johnny Mundo taking on Cage. Just another. A similar old school, you know, style match, but a lot more power. Obviously, when we're talking Cage, when we're talking the Machine, we're talking power. You know, a lot of great spots in this. What'd you think of this match, Jimbo?
I loved how it started with a slap.
Right.
And it was just like, oh, these guys are in it to fight.
Sure.
Like, in my notes, I wrote when Mundo did his like pop-up corkscrew to the outside.
Yeah.
Like, in my head, I just heard Joey Styles call that.
Oh,
Like,
absolutely.
Twisting, diving, plancha. You know, I was just like, oh man, Joey Styles calling matches in the temple would just be so.
It'd be incredible, yeah.
Joey Styles.
It does seem like Matt Striker has a very kind of Joey Styles-esque style, no pun intended. But you know, I love the dynamic between Mundo and Cage. You know, we've got all of those kicks, we've got all of that parkour from Johnny Mundo versus things like the discus lariat versus things like Weapon X from Cage. You know,
I loved how Vampiro said to defeat the Machine, you have to break it.
You just got to break it, and it's not easy to do. You know.
No, I mean, freaking looked at them.
You know?
Jesus.
And this is probably Cage at one of his leaner times too. That's the most insane part.
Ridiculous.
Whenever we see him at PWG, he's always bigger, and I'm like, you look like you can rip open. Like,
Just-
you just look like your body's just gonna
I know,
explode.
right?
Or he looks like the bad guy in Double Dragon.
I was literally
when they,
just
like,
thinking about
shoot
that.
him up full of juice. And
I was-
he's
I
just like,
remember him in FCW
That's so
days,
funny.
so like such a different like.
The former Chris Logan, of course.
Yeah, Chris Lowe with the little sideburns and everything.
Absolutely, yeah. He was originally supposed to be the Hurricane's nemesis as well.
Crazy.
He was supposed to. He had this whole. He posted a picture of it just recently. Had this entire outfit made, huge cape. He was gonna be kind of the arch nemesis of the Hurricane.
So he was Logan X, and then like when they let him go.
He wasn't Logan X. That's a
No.
different. You're thinking of a different guy.
Oh,
He was Chris
that-
Logan.
Oh.
Yeah.
So when he became Nightclaw on the Indies, was that like all or yeah, wasn't he Nightclaw?
Yeah,
on
he
the
was.
Indies?
Yeah.
Was that like all the stuff that they'd given him in developmental that he never got to use?
Probably. So speaking of the Machine, speaking of Cage, he hits Johnny Mundo with Weapon X. It looks like it's all over, but then we see a brand new competitor that we've never seen before in the temple. We see Taya, the former Taya Valkyrie of Lucha Libre fame, of AAA, I believe it is. And you know, she kind of causes this distracts our buddy Justin Borden, of course. And causes Johnny Mundo to just smack Cage across the face with a pipe. And once again, we talk about the Foley art on Lucha Underground. We talk about the sound effects. It just makes a wonderful smack, just that, you know, like a pipe would make when hitting a human face. And we get Johnny Mundo getting the 1, 2, 3. And then we see Taya and Johnny Mundo putting the boots to Cage, and we even see some straight up double knees in the corner from Taya with those berserker boots, as Matt Stryker calls them.
Is that still considered a Meteora if they do it to someone?
I was wondering about that. I was wondering if Meteora is only coming off the top, but you know what? Let's call it Meteora anyway because I love that name. But you know, we see Taya, and we see you know, another kind of strong female presence on the show. You know, we see between Sexy Star, we've got, you know, the brand new Cobra Moon, we see Taya, and obviously Katrina being such kind of a strong presence. What do you think the elements are that go into making Katrina so powerful? And not necessarily in kind of the supernatural way, but just in more of an independent kind of way.
Less is more.
Okay.
You know, it's just the tapping into an aura that you give off, you know, and I do believe like less is more. It's very subtle. It's a way you look at somebody. It's the way you move. She's slow. You know, she's calculated.
It's a slow burn, sure.
Even when you make her mad, it's slow.
Right.
You know,
right.
You don't hear her yelling. You don't hear her losing her temper. You don't see her swinging her hands around, you know, because there's always something going on, you know, and while she's watching you guys freak out, she's figuring it all out. And I do think that's what kind of gives makes her that much more powerful, you know. It's and we do have a strong group of females on board now with us. But I just think that's what makes her just a little bit different. You know?
And that's a perfect segue to this final segment that we end the episode with. We see King Cuerno and Katrina. You know, we see, I love whenever there's a back and forth between the two of them. You know, they've had this kind of contentious sort of deal in place. Cuerno, ironically, is tired of being hunted. You know, he's the hunter. He's tired of people gunning for that Gift of the Gods title. So he finally attempts to cash it in on Mil Muertes. He says, broken arm or not, I have a right to that match. And it seems like it's in violation of this deal. Katrina even says, we had a deal. And he says, too bad. And when you say something like too bad to Katrina, I feel like you're sealing your own fate, you know? Because she says...
nobody learns, guys.
Right, exactly.
I mean, come on.
So she says, well, you know, funny you should say that. I already have you in a match next week defending that title against Phoenix himself, who we forgot to mention earlier. King Cuerno goes for the thrill of the kill after the match on Killshot, and Phoenix comes out for the save. You know, I love this kind of program between the two. So Katrina makes a match for next week, Gift of the Gods title on the line, you know, and King Cuerno he's upset that he can't cash it in for this title shot that he's entitled to. And he says, look, I have a right to this match. And Katrina, just like the ironic villain she is, and just like a Twilight Zone-esque sort of twist, says, oh, that's too bad. And then as he's walking out, she says one more thing. It's a ladder match. I mean, this Gift of the Gods title match is going to be a ladder match. We saw them bust out the ladder in their last encounter. You know, she says, I hope you can fly just as well as Phoenix can, because this is a ladder match. And if there's anything we love about Lucha Underground, it's when Dario Cueto gets to scream ladder match. So I hope we can get that at some point over the season.
Yeah.
But, you know, once again, we kind of bookended the show with Katrina, even though we didn't really see her on the episode that much. We saw Vampiro referencing that portrait up top. And then, of course, we see her making next week's main event at the end. You know, it's one of those things where even if you don't see her much in the episode, she's kind of got this omnipotence, you know, just like Mil Muertes kind of hovering over everything and watching from his throne. Katrina's always there, even if she's not there, you know,
always looking,
you know, and that omnipotence is one of my favorite things about the character. What are some of the other kind of differences from that original, you know, character breakdown? You know, we talked about the lick, we talked about the stone, obviously. Mm-hmm. What other differences are there, if any, from what it was originally planned to be?
You know, I think like the writers are so great and creative, but you know what makes it so good too, coming up with a character like that is I love working with them and they love working with me, and we trust each other.
Right.
And they trust my ideas and they trust me to run with it, and that's great. And honestly, like every little thing's kind of just comes and it's like, oh, that worked. Oh, this works.
Right.
Oh, it works like, you know.
And of course there's got to be great writing, but of course, you know, the performer brings so much to the table as well.
Yeah, and you know, they trust that with me now. So they'll give me, you know, and they know I feel like she's really this season now, you know, has really fallen into her own compared to season 1, and that like I'm really able to feel her as a whole,
right?
You know, and bring a character that is like oh man, you know, like what is she, you know, like just you always know I'm up to something. There's no doubt about it,
right?
At the very beginning, like I said, it was just a paragraph. Literally, it was just like this.
Now you could write a whole novel on this character.
Yeah, and it's crazy. So I think about stuff a lot. Like I think about things like, oh, what can I do to bring out something else or something a little more?
Right, definitely.
You know, but she can't get any freakier. You know, like she's like dominating and licking and just taking men's souls. Like she's not. Next thing you know, I'm gonna have like a dungeon. You know, it's gonna be like the 50 Shades of Grey of Katrina.
Oh my!
You know? It's gonna be like this dungeon.
Didn't realize
men,
I wanted that before.
You know.
Now I do. So thank you for that.
The skull snow globe. That
was
was
so
just
good.
like a nice little touch. And then like when we tweeted people that you were coming in tonight, everyone was like, "Hide the knife."
I favorited that tweet. You know.
Oh, so
good.
good.
The knife.
So good.
The knife lick. And
I love it. I love it. Well, Karlee, thank you so much for coming in.
Much.
We're going to double up on predictions. My favorite part of the episode next week. You know it's my favorite. But Jimbo, where can they find you for now?
You can find me on Twitter at @TheJimboSlice. Where's my DVD? Hey, yeah, I made a documentary about the Young Bucks. You could buy it at highspots.com with her hitting high spots with Rob Naylor.
See,
Check
there
that
you
out
go.
Also.
Hey.
Absolutely. Karlee, where can they find you? And also, what other projects do you have coming up on the horizon?
You guys can find me at Karlee Leilani on Twitter, and I mean the next closest thing is Lucha, like in 2 weeks, you know, or 3 weeks, season 3.
Where's that fun outro music, Jimbo? There we go. See, that's how we know we're cooking. Please continue.
Yeah, Lucha will be the next closest thing. We're right in the middle of pilot season.
Of course.
So I'm thankfully nice and busy there. And
so if you're looking to cast a very mysterious, very omnipotent presence, just hit up Karlee.
At Karlee Leilani. Thank you guys for having me.
Of course, it was such a blast. We're such big fans of yours and of the show that this was just a dream come true for sure.
Yes, and everybody watch next week and season 3.
Watch the rest of season 2, season 3, all that good stuff.
And hopefully 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
Exactly.
You know?
As always, you can find me on Twitter, on Instagram at Ty Matthews PMA, as well as various other after shows, Monday Night Raw, The Magicians, Second Chance, all that good stuff. Also, let me just plug this right now. If you're a fan of Lucha Underground, which if you're watching this, I know you are, go over to Up Rocks, read Brandon Stroud's coverage of Lucha Underground. It's such brilliant writing. Really funny. It'll make you think about the show in ways that you never really thought about. That's just my plug because that's just something I love reading every week. But guys, thank you so much for tuning in. We'll be right back here, same time, same channel, next week, Thursday night, 10 p.m., talking episode 6 of season 2 of Lucha Underground. But until then, guys, viva la lucha!
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz
See you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.